You know we have to talk about Chick-fil-A and what happened this week. And just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna assume you know nothing about the situation. So if you do, bear with me for a minute. Okay, Chick-fil-A. It's a restaurant chain with more than 2,400 locations. They sell chicken sandwiches and waffle fries. I've been told people love the sandwiches. I'm vegetarian, makes no difference to me. I've never had one. But the restaurant's fans are obsessed. Like, if there's a new one built near you, there will be a line for days leading up to its opening. The company was founded by the Cathy family, and they made sure their Southern Baptist values were infused in the business model. Most famously, they're closed on Sundays because it's the Lord's Day. As far as I can tell, they also treat their staff really well, and obviously the customers like it. That Sunday thing, though, it's interesting because I've heard people make fun of them for it. Like when a Chick-fil-A might open in an airport, people say, if you're flying on a Sunday, don't you need the place open? But for the airport, it's actually good for business. Chick-fil-A makes more money in 6 days than most other restaurants make in 7, so more power to them. Maybe the funniest example of this policy is that there's a Chick-fil-A in an NFL stadium in Atlanta. Think about that one. Most of those football games are played on Sunday, but hey, they stick to their values, right? Okay, so here's the controversy. In 2012, Dan Cathy, the son of the founder, said in an interview that he opposed marriage equality. Now, the restaurant itself doesn't discriminate against gay customers or anything like that, but there is this question of whether the money you spend there is funding anti-gay bigotry. The answer for a long while was yes, primarily through the Win Shape Foundation, which is the restaurant's nonprofit arm. It was later rebranded as the Chick-fil-A Foundation. Over the years, the foundation gave donations to groups like the Family Research Council, which spreads lies about gay people. They gave to Exodus International, which promoted gay conversion therapy, which many people regard as torture. So it was true, some of the money you spent on a chicken sandwich was directly funding these faith-based hate groups. But that was bad for business, especially as our culture shifted to accepting same-sex marriage and LGBTQ rights in general. So, Chick-fil-A announced in 2012 that they were no longer supporting any anti-gay groups. See? Problem solved. Except that's not what they did. In 2017, it came out, no pun intended, that the Chick-fil-A Foundation had given money to groups including the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and the Salvation Army. And while those groups don't actively discriminate against LGBTQ people, they do hold anti-gay beliefs at their core. FCA, for example, won't hire employees in same-sex relationships. The Salvation Army had a history of opposing LGBTQ rights, or merely saying they would follow local employment laws, which can be discriminatory depending on where you are. I will admit they seem to have shifted away from that more recently. The point is, Chick-fil-A was still giving money to faith-based organizations that promoted this idea that homosexuality was somehow wrong, even if it's not what they were known for. And that brings us to this week. Chick-fil-A announced that it was basically restructuring its entire donation model. From now on, they would only support a few charities that worked in the areas of homelessness and hunger and education. And, by the way, because their promises to those Christian groups had ended, they would stop giving money to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and the Salvation Army, and literally dozens upon dozens of other secular groups. They're basically going for quality over quantity. It's not like they were targeting those two Christian groups specifically. In a sense, you could make the argument that by serving the neediest people, they're following Jesus. They're helping the least of these. They are doing something genuinely admirable and Bible-based. This should be a win-win for them. But right-wing Christians were furious. They saw this as a capitulation, as if Chick-fil-A caved to liberal activists. Or to put it another way, a bunch of Christians are angry that Chick-fil-A, a Christian company, is turning its back on Christianity by helping the poor. The former Republican presidential candidate, Mike Huckabee, even said Chick-fil-A had betrayed loyal customers by not being bigots, I guess. Before you praise Chick-fil-A, though, let's be honest about why they're doing this. It's not a sudden change of heart. They did it because they have this nasty reputation for being anti-gay, whether it's deserved or not. Every time you hear about them in the news, it's because there are people protesting the opening of a new restaurant, or because city councilors say they don't want an anti-gay restaurant opening in their community. They're not in the news because people love the food. But you know who is in the news for that lately? Popeyes. That restaurant is now selling its own chicken sandwich, which I hear is also amazing, and they're definitely not anti-gay. So what do if you're Chick-fil-A? You already have good food, you just need better PR. So they made this announcement, and now they're getting hate from the haters. Somehow these evangelicals took a Christian company promoting Christian values that just announced it would be donating to some of the most important kinds of charities and turned it into a reason to avoid both the restaurant and evangelicals. They're doing my work for me. By the way, Chick-fil-A responded to the backlash with this cryptic statement about how no organization will be excluded from future consideration when it comes to their donations, which kind of leaves the door open for some of these anti-gay groups to get money from them again. Who knows how this thing will end? The best thing to do right now is to wait to see how their new donations pan out. Until then, just go to Popeyes.